How's it going, girls?
Good.
It's good. How are you?
Great. So tell me about the record. I've been hearing you guys are so much in love with it.
Yes,
We are in love with
we're
it.
very in love with it. Yeah, it's our third record. We're super excited to put it out. We wrote it during the pandemic. The record's a lot about our youth and reflection on our youth and kind of how where we're from and the things we went through affect us today.
And how was it like working during the pandemic? How did that hit you?
Yeah, I think, because we were so used to touring and traveling so much with our band, the pandemic was a huge shift because we were just sat at home. And I think when you are left with that much time and space, you're kind of just left with your thoughts and your feelings and things come up. And so, the only thing to do is go to the studio. So we were kind of processing a lot of things from our past in the studio and in the present. Cristal was really struggling with panic attacks at the time and her mental health. And so we first started talking about that in the record with songs like Always Get This Way and Don't Freak that came out before. And then we kind of started asking more questions, like getting curious about it. Like, where is this coming from? Because this existed before the pandemic. So it's not just that, which is already stressful enough. Like, where's it coming from? And we kind of realized, although we started making music really young, we never really got to tell the stories of like our teenage selves, and where we come from and what it was to be who we are in the town that we came from. And so we started exploring what it was like to be young and queer and closeted. We came from a very religious town, and kind of processing that, in hopes to process, but also to connect with other people that are going through something similar, whether right now or in the past or anything like that. So yeah, it was definitely a really cathartic and healing process to make this record, and it definitely takes you on that journey.
And were you guys together during the pandemic, or you were isolated from one another?
We mostly isolated, yeah, for the first portion of it, and
for like the first time in ever, we were separated longer than we'd ever been.
Yeah. Once things were safer, we were able to kind of get together and safely test and go into the studio and work on this record together more.
Mm-hmm. But did you work separately as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we sent demos a bunch, and when we really finished up the record, we went into the studio and did that. Yeah. But yeah, we were working remotely for a lot of it.
And the pandemic for a lot of people was a time of learning technical stuff because, like Zoom, right? We had never heard of Zoom, and now Zoom is a normal part of our lives. And did that happen with you guys in the studio with the tech things?
Yeah, I think there was more time to really dive in and be really intentional with the sound of this record and play with a lot of like vintage and analog equipment. Like as far as like we use like a beautiful, crazy array of guitar pedals that Katie could get more into if we have time. And we use like amazing like pads and synths. And we really actually got to like touch these things and play them and really be specific about the exact sounds and tones of everything. So it was really fun to learn about that and to get a dive in for the unique sound of the album.
And when you listen back to the record now, do you think you guys sound different than you did in the first two records?
For sure.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think we sound, a lot of the songs on the new record remind me a lot of the music we made as kids, like an elevated, mature version of kind of that same sonic. Like, it's really interesting how we weren't like so intentional about that, but it just kind of happened. And yeah, it's fun to listen back.
And when you guys play live, what's the setup like? Just the four of you?
Guitar, drums, and singer. We're just a classic rock band.
Yeah, I think it'll always be that way too. I think we're just a classic four-piece.
And how are you with your instruments now? You feel you're learning, you master them? How is it?
I think you're always learning.
Yeah, I think that you're always learning your instrument and always striving to get better. There's always a new ceiling to break, but we've been playing our whole lives. So I think at the end of the day, as musicians individually, we're very, very comfortable and efficient, but especially playing together, the chemistry when you've been playing as a band for over 15 years, it's just something that can't be replicated.
It's kind of like the Beatles, the 10,000 hours. We've definitely logged our 10,000 hours together.
Yeah.
Technically, we're pros, and if you look at that way.
And now you're going on the road with the record?
Yeah, we're definitely going on the road. We have plans to try to come to Brazil specifically. So
Yeah, I was gonna ask that.
Yeah.
we want to.
And who are you touring with?
Right now we're just headlining.
Just
So we're gonna
headlining.
headline all over the States, and have plans to, obviously we have a European UK tour as well. That's up.
The US tour.
And US tour, and then we're planning on going to places we've never been before. So we're trying to, go to a bunch of new countries, which we're gonna do in the summer in Europe. We're going to a lot of countries we've never been, and then hopefully Brazil soon. And yeah, it's gonna be the most touring we've ever done.
And what is it like being independent? Like you guys are indie band in both senses, the sound and being actually independent from record companies and things. And how, is that better?
Well,
or is it more work?
We have a record company. We're signed to
To
label.
an indie label though.
Yeah, it is an indie label, but yeah, it's I mean, it's great. When we were signing deals, we wanted to work with a team that really believed in our project. We were really young, so we wanted to make sure that we were going to have full creative control and that we weren't going to be told what to do or told how to sound. It was really important to us to have that full creative control. And our record label that we picked, Red Bull Records, they promised us that, and they gave us that. They've always let us do exactly what we want and be who we are and say what we want to say. And so that's really why we've been able to have such a good relationship with them over the years.
And do you still live in your hometown?
No,
I live in Salt Lake City, which is a little bit outside of our hometown, but I'm moving to LA in the next couple
yeah,
months.
we live in LA. The three of us do.
And what was it like? And now that you look back, being the band that you are in Utah?
Yeah, it was, I think, really exciting in some ways, but also really difficult in some ways. I think we really stood out. I think for the better or for the worse sometimes. I think we were really driven because of the culture we were raised in. It was kind of like all we did on the weekends was play shows. And then, but at the same time, I think it took a longer time for people in our hometown to really grab onto what we were doing, because it's really not common to be women in a band where we come from, or to be queer, or to really be anything that we are. So it took some more time, I think, but I think it's kind of a double-edged sword. Like the relationship with our hometown is kind of a bittersweet one.
Yeah. You in that sense, you remind me, not of course not the sound, but of Slipknot, because they're also they come from Iowa, and they discuss a lot that, right? And they also have a record named Iowa, and I think it's all the relationship between being an extreme band like they are, and that in relation to the place you come from. And how was the pandemic there in Utah? Did people respect everything, the isolation?
We weren't there.
Kind of can speak to that.
Katie, I think for the most part, I think it's really nice sometimes in places like that, I think, versus a city, because there's a lot more space for people to have
of course,
yards, and like it's not like you're crammed in an apartment. So I think everyone was respectful, and I think it was taken.
It's a little crazy though, right?
Yeah, in different places where I lived, it was good, but there's different places in Utah where it maybe wasn't respected as much.
Now we're all relieved it's all over, right? We can't believe it's over. Thank you very much. It's great talking to you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
And I hope to see you in Brazil soon.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you also for streaming our song. I know you guys have. So
thank you for playing it. We appreciate it so much.
We've been playing it. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.